Hello, and welcome to the Wednesday morning Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition campaign prep stream. Still haven't shortened that title at all. I need to work on that. Trying a little bit of a different setup today. You guys probably can't notice, but it's different for me. I'm a podcaster normally. I don't do a lot of streaming, like with my face. So my mic is normally positioned in such a way that is not a big deal. Like I can have it off to the side or something and angled so that it still picks up my voice. But usually that ends up blocking my face from the camera a little bit. And so I have a little closer. I'm really not a fan of anything, but I'm not a fan of anything. Let's just isolate that quote. Gonna try playing the music bed throughout the whole stream. I think I'm just gonna turn it down a little bit. If it ends up being distracting, you can let me know in chat. If you're watching this live, thank you very much for joining us. I do appreciate having you here. If you missed any of the previous sessions, previous stream sessions, this is a stream in which I prep my Dungeons & Dragons campaigns, and I have since last week, I've decided that I'm going to narrow the focus of this stream down to just my Hexcrawl campaign, since that's what we spent most of the time discussing last time, is my Tomb of Annihilation inspired Hexcrawl campaign, the Heart of Shatrokas. That's what we're going to focus on. The Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I'm still running that campaign, but because it's ongoing and we're already like 6 sessions in, and the pacing of that is very unique in that we only play once every 3 months and then we play for a whole weekend, I'm going to prep that on my own time. If you have an interest in anything that I do for that, like I shared some of my unique feats and everything that I made last time, feel free to share your thoughts with me in the comments or in chat. Otherwise, we're just going to be focusing on the jungle exploration campaign for this stream. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to move us over to Scrivener. I have it open up onto the Tomb of Annihilation here, with that nice, beautiful artwork, that is gorgeous art. I think I might steal that for for my Heart of Shatrokas campaign. But we're going to transfer over to Scrivener. And here on this Scrivener page, we can see that we have... All right. Trying something. I should have tried this before I started streaming. Oh well, who cares? There we go. We have our list of biomes and our list of enemy types or inhabitants in the jungle. You know what? And I actually think the music is already distracting, so I'm going to turn that off. But if you ended up liking it in the background, again, let me know. As always, I am open, and I encourage any and all chat interaction. If you have any input or thoughts or questions on the setting, my prep, anything like that, anything you want to throw in, please let me know. But what I figured I wanted to do for this session, there are 2 things that I'd like to do for this prep session. And I kind of already started them, so I cheated a little bit, but I stopped myself when I realized what I was doing. So the 2 things that I want to do is now we have our player characters. This last Saturday, my players got together and they made their player characters, so I have them available. I have an idea for who they are and what the players kind of expect to be doing as a party, at least with these characters. And so now that I have that, I really want to go back at what I have for the first session, which is Secrets and Lies in Viscera City. Excuse me. And I want to personalize this, if not this first session, then at least this city, like the city that they start in. I want to find ways to personalize this for them. Find things to do, like bits to add here and there to make it feel more like they're a part of the world. And so what characters do we have? Well, let's just go back down to here, and we have a dwarf ranger named Glenda. We have a half-elf paladin named Gwen. And I suppose I should do Dwarf Ranger Far Traveler, which is a background from the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide that we adapted to fit this setting. A half-elf paladin folk hero named Gwen. That's my daughter's character, Gwen, and she just met. Well, my wife took my kids to hang out with some friends of my wife from her work and their kids, and she was like, my daughter's like, "What's their last name again?" And my wife told her their last name, which is very mundane, very Midwestern last name of Peterson. And so my daughter's like, "My character's going to be named Gwen Peterson." Bless her heart. We also have my wife's character, which is a Loxodon wizard outlander named Mastofa. Kind of playing on the term mastodon there, or the name mastodon, which I thought was really cool, especially since she's playing a homebrewed subrace of the Loxodon called the Nordoon Loxodon, and they're essentially woolly mammoths. They're big, fuzzy Loxodons. And then we have a Deepling, which is an offshoot of a Tiefling. It's a homebrew subrace. Deepling is a tiefling whose infernal heritage traces back to the demons of the Abyssal Sea, which, again, in my setting, the Abyss is a bottomless, infinite black ocean. And full transparency here. I created it that way because this setting, the first campaign I ran in this setting was the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and I wanted to have a very nautical, oceanic feel to the setting, and I was like, oh, that'd be really cool if the Abyss was just a big ocean. And it made me think of like The Abyss, like the old movie. Excuse me. So he's a Deepling monk, and his background is hermit. And no name yet. And I texted him a few days ago and was like, what? Do you have any idea? And I gave him some hints because he's played one session of Dungeons and Dragons before. That is his only experience with tabletop RPGs. So this is all brand new to him. So I'm hoping that I get something from him soon. Okay, so those are our characters. So what I wanted to do, first of all of these characters are going to ascend at level 3. That means they're going to get their subclass at level 3, except for the wizard. The wizard is a level 2 ascension. I think they're called the apprentice levels. Everyone else is level 3. And everyone, as far as I know, I don't know about the ranger, the player who's playing the ranger, but as far as I know, everyone has no idea what they're going to ascend to at that level, like when they get to that point. They don't know what they're going to pick out of their different subclasses, except for the monk. I do know that the monk wants to be the way of the 4 elements. Now, the downside, and this is where it gets a little tricky for me, is that all of these characters have pretty decent stats. I adopted Matt Colville's ability score determination, where you roll 4d6 and you keep the highest 3, which is from the book. But then the first roll is your strength, second roll is your dex, third roll is your con, so far and so forth. And if you don't get at least 2 of those rolls equaling 15 or higher, you scrap the whole list and you do it again. Excuse me. So we did that, and that worked really well for all the characters except for the monk. And the reason why it didn't work for the monk is that all the other characters, they did that, and then they determined their class based on those. And I had created little handouts that I handed out to the players, because the player's handbook, I keep bumping my mic. Even when I move it, I still bump it. The player's handbook is really good at giving detailed information on the different races and classes, but it's not great if you just want bite-sized, just bullet pointed consumable information like what does this class do, what are they good at, what are they bad at, that sort of thing. So I made little handouts for each class, and I listed their key ability scores, like the abilities that you want to have high. And the paladin, my daughter, who rolled an 18 constitution and a 17 charisma, made a paladin. And my wife, who rolled a 17 intelligence and I think a 13 wisdom or something like that, made a wizard. And then my brother-in-law, who's playing the monk, he chose the monk because he wanted to do an Avatar Airbender style character. But his stats, unfortunately, they aren't conducive to playing a monk. I think he has a +1 in dexterity and a 0 in wisdom. So, and I don't want to punish him for that, because this is his first real campaign. But I also don't want him to feel like he's being outshined by the other players. So I think the answer that I came to, and if anyone in chat has any ideas about this going forward, I would love to hear them. Or if you're watching this on YouTube and you have ideas, please comment with them, because I do check comments. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the monk access to some unique temporary boosts. So in the Dungeon Master's Guide there is, and in D&D in general, there is the Potion of Giant Strength, which has like 5 or 6 different tiers, and they increase your strength for an hour up to 21, between 21 and like 29, depending on the rarity of the potion. But they only have that for strength. They don't have that for any other stat. So I created, for this character, not for this character, but in general, I created, I'm actually going to turn to my physical notes, that's where I have it written down. I just called it Serpent's Dexterity. I'm not a big fan, or no, Serpent's Agility. I'm not a big fan of that as a name. Serpent and agility aren't very conducive, but I liked Serpent because it's emblematic of the campaign in this jungle setting, and agility because it's a dexterity potion. Excuse me, got a little bit of a pick-me-up today. My Dr. Pepsi. That's 1 part Pepsi, 1 part Dr. Pepper. They don't have cherry Pepsi at that gas station, so that's what I have to get. Anyway, so I created a version of that for dexterity, of the giant strength potion. Just staying hydrated like crazy. And the Serpent's agility potions, they go Serpent's agility, Python's agility, Naga's agility, Hydra's agility, and that's 21, 23, 25, 27. And I'm not married to any of those names. They'll probably change before I put them in front of the player. But I made those so that he can drink one of those potions and go up to 21 dexterity for an hour. So for an hour, he can really enjoy having better than average, not just average, but better than average stats. So I'm going to put that on here. So this was the first thing I did. After I knew the characters, I went back to my session 1 notes, and I didn't do it on my computer because I wanted to save that for when I was streaming. But in my notebook, I wrote down ideas for magic items that these characters can find as they go. And now, only one of the characters has HP higher than 10, and that is our Paladin. She has a HP of 14, so pretty sizable starting hit points. But our other 3 characters are 9, 8, and 5. Not great, especially with my whole idea with those specters, and we'll get to that in a minute. But so the treasures that I came up with was, I already knew that I wanted to put in some healing potions, and all I did was I increased the number of those that they get in this first adventure from 3 to 6. So they get a number of healing potions, which is great because they don't have a dedicated healer other than the Paladin's lay on hands, and eventually when the Paladin and the Ranger get access to spells. But otherwise, they don't have a healer, so they're going to need something. So 6 healing potions. I wanted to supply some scrolls for the wizard. So there is a scroll of Detect Magic, which is a great level 1 spell that she does not have access to, or I'm sorry, that she does not have currently. And then I wanted to give her a level 2 spell as well, so that she has something to kind of look forward to. So I'm also putting in a Scroll of Sea Invisibility. Like I already said, the Serpent's Agility Potion. So that's in there. There's also a Bag of Holding. I wanted an item that would be a long-term use item that didn't necessarily benefit any single character, but rather is something that they could just kind of be like, could just be a utility item. So I put in a Bag of Holding. That's a great starting item because it's not going to break anything. It's not going to break the way your game runs. It's just a Bag of Holding. And then I wanted something for the Ranger. So 5 arrow +1s. This is about, like, that's a level, he's going to be getting those at level 3, level 2 into 3. And that's the first +1 that they'll be seeing, and I think I'm fine with them if it's just arrows for now. I think I want to start giving them +1 weapons, probably around level 4 to 5, and then +1 armor, probably around level 6-ish. And that's just ballparking. That's just based on the pacing that I want from this campaign. But at the same time, I also want to provide them with stuff that gives them incentive to explore these dungeons and everything. And then probably the most powerful item is a Sentinel Shield. And now, in case you are unaware of what a Sentinel Shield does, let's switch back over to D&D Beyond. And we're going to go all the way up to the top. Boop. And we're going to search for Sentinel Shield. Magic item. Excuse me. Because I wanted something for the Paladin, but the Paladin's already really good. Like, I didn't want to finish this first adventure without providing something for everybody. And that's kind of where I want to go, more or less. But this first adventure especially, I wanted to make sure that I gave everybody something. So the Sentinel Shield, while you hold this shield, you have advantage on initiative rolls and wisdom perception checks. This shield is emblazoned with the symbol of an eye. So she's already using a shield, so her armor class isn't changing at all. But she's getting advantage on initiative rolls and advantage on perception checks. So that's kind of going to solidify her role in the group. It's going to take this character and basically say you are the point person. And also I kind of want to instill that. Now, my daughter is 9. She's played through most of the content in the Essentials kit, which is a fantastic product, and she's played through some homebrew stuff. And then she'll be starting another campaign next Friday, not this coming Friday, but next Friday, with a friend of ours who's running it. So there's also the possibility that the Paladin won't stay in this campaign because she'll be playing in that campaign every other Friday, and then in this campaign every other Saturday. And I told her, if you end up getting burned out on D&D, that's okay. It's fine. It happens, and nobody's going to be upset. But if you choose to drop one of the 2 campaigns, I want you to drop Heart of Shatrokas. I don't want you to drop the other one, because she committed to that one earlier, and Heart of Shatrokas was something that I just decided to do after the fact. So it's possible that the Paladin may end up leaving the party, or maybe not leaving, but becoming kind of like an NPC or a secondary character. So if that's the case, then I'm kind of okay with her having a Sentinel Shield. But again, it's not an amazing item. It's good. Like, the advantage on initiative is great, but I mean, otherwise it's nothing amazing. So that's how I took the gear. The only things that existed before this, as far as treasure items went, were the Bag of Holding and 3 healing potions, and that was what they would get from the dungeon crawl, the mini dungeon crawl at the end of this session. And I realized I never showed the map for that, so I'm going to show our map. And I labeled it. I opened it in GIMP, which is like a free version, or not free version, but a free software that's very similar to Photoshop. It's not the same, but it's similar. So I opened this map. I just found it online, opened it in GIMP, labeled all the rooms, and I realized it's a sewer map, and there's like an altar or a shrine of some sort. So I came up with a backstory for it really quick. It used to be this hidden secret hideout for a cult of Tiamat. And so I'm actually going to, when I draw the map and when I describe it to my players, that's going to be a statue of Tiamat, like a desecrated statue of Tiamat, not of whatever humanoid that is now. But yeah, so anyway, they find the bag of holding and the 3 healing potions here, and I was pretty light on that treasure because I knew that I'd be adding more in once we got the player characters solidified. So now that we have that, the next thing that I want to do is I want to create... I put installations in here, but really what I mean is institutions in Viscera. And when I say a PC-specific institution, what I'm talking about is a place representative of their class to which they can go to between scenes and between action in Viscera City and learn about their class and their subclasses, because they're going to have some time before they pick one. And I also kind of want to tie that into a narrative thing. I don't want it to just be like, all right, we're in the middle of a dungeon, I just got level 3, so I'm going to take the Oath of Devotion or whatever. I want it to have a bit more of a narrative swing so that they feel like there's a story reason why they are making these choices. So what I came up with, and this... what I came up with for the monk is the monastery, and I just spitballed these names out, and this came to my head and I laughed when I wrote this down. Monastery of the Nomad Soul, which, if anybody is familiar with the games of Quantic Dream, the company run by David Cage, most recently they did not Beyond Two Souls. Well, that's pretty recent too, but Detroit Become Human, they did that a couple years ago. I'm not a big fan of those games, but I do watch playthroughs of those games on YouTube, and one of his oldest games was called Omicron the Nomad Soul, and that just sounded very monkish to me, so I put it in there. And if that ends up, like, I would be okay if that doesn't get used, but at the same time, it's kind of this nice little nod to this video series that I like, and also that my wife is familiar with. But anyway, it also sounds very monkish. So there's a monastery in Viscera City that they can visit. There is the Temple of Order. And now Viscera City is a lizard folk city, primarily. So they're not really going to have temples or shrines, other than maybe like a dragon shrine or something like that. But other humanoids who have settled in Viscera City and live in Viscera City would establish their own temples. Now, the real estate, like the actual space that they have to do this in, is limited. So it would make sense for them to have one temple for multiple gods. And that's what the Temple of Order is going to be. There's going to be like 3 or 4 different gods in there. I'll make sure that one of them is of the Paladin's alignment, neutral good. Excuse me. Ooh. I'll make sure one of them is of the Paladin's alignment. But otherwise, there's going to be like 3 or 4 gods. And I might even have those gods emblematic of the oaths that the Paladin can take when she reaches level 3. And then there will be a Hunter's Lodge. I'll probably attach someone's name to it, an NPC's name to it, not just call it the Hunter's Lodge, but rather like Belcoria's Lodge. That's a bad example. I'm not going to name it Belcoria's Lodge. Belcoria is a different NPC, but you get the point. And that's for the Ranger. And I'll have the different Ranger subclasses represented there. And then finally, the Visceran Wizards Guild. And that will have the 8 subclasses of Wizard presented there. So, I want each of these to provide the player characters with, like I said, options, or not necessarily options, but with narrative implications or narrative, I can't even think of the impetus for their level 3/level 2 choices. It also gives me a way to tie them in to the setting. So, so the Monastery of the Nomad Soul, I can't even say it without just chuckling. Monastery of the Nomad Soul, there is the Way of the Open Hand, the Way of Shadow, and the Way of the 4 Elements. And I thought about going one step further with the monk and saying, like, this monastery represents the way of the open hand and the way of the shadow. And then if he were to inquire about the way of the four elements, since I know that is something he is looking for, I thought about going, like, the other monks going, like, what are you talking about? Way of the four elements? That's not a thing. Like, there's legends of, generations ago there being a monk who mastered the four elements, but he was a master, and then he's long since passed out of this plane of existence, or out of this, maybe he died, or maybe he went on to a different plane, or ascended to like the astral plane or something like that. So I thought about kind of giving it that air of mystique and destiny, which is really cool. But at the same time, this monk has 8 hit points and a +1 in dex and a 0 in wisdom. So if he ends up dying, having that destiny laid before him would be pretty lame, for lack of a better term. So yeah. So I think there is going to be a way of the four elements there, but it's probably just going to be muted. It's not going to be as prevalent as the way of the shadow or the way of the open hand. Temple of the Order, we have the Oath of the Ancients, Oath of Devotion, and the Oath of Vengeance. And I really liked how the Player's Handbook gave alternate names: the Green Knights, the White Knights, and the Black Knights. So I think I'm going to play with that a little bit. Hunter's Lodge, we have the Hunter and the Beastmaster. And this player owns Xanathar's Guide to Everything. He has the physical book. So I'm actually going to look in Xanathar's. I don't have the book, but I have it on here. I'm going to look in Xanathar's for the Druid, the Ranger, Gloomstalker, Horizon Walker, and Monster Slayer. Right? Yeah. Gloomstalker, Horizon Walker, Monster Slayer. Gloomstalker, Horizon Walker, Monster Slayer. So I'm going to have to do some research to make sure I'm familiar with those. They sound pretty self-explanatory, though. The Gloomstalker is probably very stealthy. I think I played with Gloomstalkers, actually. And yeah, they're the ones that are, like, hidden even in dim light. The Horizon Walker is probably a traveler. And the Monster Slayer is probably exactly that, a monster hunter. And then the Wizard's Guild is Abjuration. This is the one that's really going to be difficult because I have 8 different subclasses that I have to try and establish for the wizard in less time, because she's going to be progressing to her specialty or her subclass at level 2. Is that all 8? Yes, it is. Abjuration, Conjuration, Divination, Enchantment, Evocation, Illusion, Necromancy, and Transmutation. And I've already talked with her about them a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think she has a preference at this point. I don't think she knows what any of them... I wouldn't say what any of them mean, but what any of them would mean for her character. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But like I said, I have to establish 4 of them in less amount of time. So we'll see how that goes. So as far as bringing the characters into the campaign, what I want to do is, we're going to go back to bullets here, and I'm literally just just writing these down as they come to me. When it comes to bringing the characters into the campaign, I want to introduce them introduce the PCs with letters from Ebris. I want to establish that they all know him already, and then I want to introduce them into the campaign with these letters that they get from Ebris, who's talking about the Heart of Shatrokus, how he needs their help. He wants this person, for different reasons, he wants each of these people to assist him in returning a powerful artifact to the jungle where it rightfully belongs, and he's fearful for his life, and he's looking over his shoulder, and he's afraid he's being stalked at night and stuff like that. So I want to establish that level of investment immediately. Like, the players are being asked for help, and then they're going to go and help this person. And not only that, I think in these letters, I also want the letters to establish the PC's institutions. So he'd be like, in the letter to the paladin, he might be like, I don't know if you have taken your sacred oath. I don't know if you have, committed to a sacred oath at the Temple of Order yet. But, even if you haven't, I still think that your aid would be useful or stuff like that. Or like, I'm sorry to disrupt your meditations and your studies at the monastery of the Nomad Soul, but I need your help. So stuff like that. Okay. So that's that. And if anyone has any thoughts on that, please, like I said, go ahead and comment. Let me know. But now we're going to transition to one of my favorite parts of D&D 5th edition prep, and that is enemy creation and encounter creation. So in the sewer hideout, I have a number of enemies already planned. But now that I have the party, I want to make some changes. I have 2 guards and a blink dog in room 1. I have 2 bandits and a blink dog in room 6. And then 3 bandits in 4 of the room 7s, and 2 cultists in room 3. And that is and a bandit in room 8. And that is the entire dungeon. Because they'll be doing this at level 2, so I didn't want to overwhelm them. And there's a plan, like I have an actual, so here's that's his house. Where is it? Here we go. Guard room, antechamber, blah, blah, blah. So we have that. And then also, I have this section, defending the sewer hideout. That this is, because they have alarms. This is their hideout. So if they trigger an alarm at either the west secret door or the east secret door, different things will happen. The dungeon will react and move to defend this establishment against the heroes, and also to remove evidence of this criminal organization's presence. That's all great. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the 2 cultists. And let's go back to my note here. So sewer, hideout, enemy changes. Because I want to make things more interesting and not just pit them against just regular enemies. So we're going to remove the 2 cultists and 1 bandit. And we're going to replace them with an evil analog for the party. This is fun. I've never actually done this where I have like an evil party of player characters, but this is a good opportunity to do that, and it'll be a lot of fun. And I've already determined the classes. So I don't want to just do 1-for-1. The only one that I'm doing 1-for-1 is the monk. And that way I can establish that in his monastery. I can establish that there is a Way of Shadow monk. That's what I did, right? Way of Shadow? I didn't list it. But so for each PC, so we have the monk will go up against a monk. And this will establish that kind of like one-on-one martial arts, wushu fighting. That'll be really fun. So I'm excited to see that come out. For the paladin, I originally went with a barbarian. Because I was like, paladins are very lawful, barbarians are very chaotic. They're both beat sticks. But I wanted to go even further and change it with a rogue. Specifically like an assassin rogue. I think that'd be really fun. For the ranger, I want an evil druid. And for the wizard, I originally planned on an evil sorcerer because I like the idea that this evil person is like, look at you, you have to study to get all this magic. You have to spend, hours and days and months of your life learning new spells, and I can just do it. Like, look at this. Like, I can just make fire. Like, go me. Not like that. It'd be more menacing, but you get it. I think that'd be really fun, but I'm also kind of open to the idea of it being a warlock. That'd be kind of interesting as well, but I like the flexibility of the sorcerer, so warlock is a possibility. Now, what about statting out these enemies? How will we do that? They have a lot of NPCs available in the and I realized I did it again. I'm so sorry, guys. Let's put us back to Scrivener. There we go. So now you can see everything I've been writing. I realize that they have a lot of NPC stats in the monster manual in the player's handbook. They have stats, just the monster manual actually. They have stats for guards and bandits and cultists and berserkers and swashbucklers and stuff like that. So I could use that, but I don't really want to. I want these enemies to feel unique, and not that these players would notice the difference, but I also want them to grow and advance as long as the players do. And I always want them to be one step ahead of the players as far as power level. So that this will be probably one of the only times they face all four of them at once. And the way I see it is that there will be Scathus, the Tiefling Bard, who at this point will probably be a level 5 enemy, equivalent to. And he'll see the players coming. I want to try and establish a moment where there's the Bard, these guys, the 4 evil party, and then the other player characters, and they all kind of see each other. And the Bard is like, take care of them, but don't waste time. Do it quick. Don't let them follow us, that sort of thing. So that gives this party the incentive to fight, to subdue, attack with the intent to subdue the party rather than kill them. Because the whole place is, in my head, the organization has started to burn the contents of this hideout. And so it's like you can either keep fighting and eventually everybody gets consumed in the fire, or you can make sure the player characters can't follow you and then head out. Not totally sure if that's how it's going to play out or not yet, but that's the plan. So while I could create 4 4th level PCs that I then run, that sounds like a pain in the ass, and I do not want to do that. Running one PC is intense enough, and as a DM, I have enough on my plate. You have enough on your plate as a DM. So what can we do to make these easier? Now, what I usually do is a method adapted from, again, Matt Colville on YouTube. He has a system called action-oriented combat where he creates extra abilities for boss enemies or singular solo enemies to make them a challenge for a party of players and not to have them just be like totally mopped up with, like the players just totally roll over them, because that's usually what happens if you pit one enemy against a group of players. That one enemy either gets slaughtered or slaughters the players, and that's not fun. Fun combat is when it's tense and it's a tug of war constantly. You don't know who's gonna succeed and who's gonna fail at any given moment. So I don't want to do that action-oriented combat for this, because that includes unique abilities, special to the villains, which I love, that activate at the end of every round, which I also like. So at the end of the first round, this ability goes off. At the end of the second round, this ability goes off, so on and so forth. I love that. I love that design. But I also don't want to overpower a party of level 2s too much. Much like with the Spectres, I want to scare them, but I don't want to run them into the ground. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to give each of these enemies maybe like a special reaction and a special bonus action ability that only they can do, inspired by their specialty. So the Shadow Monk, the Assassin Rogue. Well, let's look at our rogues real quick and see what my options are. Let's go back to D&D Beyond and see what my options are for Rogue. Whoop. Rogue. Roguish archetypes. We have the Arcane Trickster. That'd be fun. But also Assassin. The Assassinate ability is when you take it at 3rd level, you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in the combat. In addition, any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. Okay, that's fun, but that's also devastating, so I don't think I want to do that. The Inquisitive. Eye for Deceit. Treat a roll of 7 or lower as a roll of 8. Oh, they get 3. Eye for Detail. Use a bonus action to make perception or investigation checks. Okay. Insightful fighting. Bonus action, make an insight check against a creature you see that isn't incapacitated, contested by their deception. Oh, and then you just get sneak attack against them. That's kind of fun. Mastermind sounds kind of cool. Master of Intrigue, learn 2 languages, and you can mimic the speech patterns of a creature. Okay. Master of Tactics. Help as a bonus action. And when you use help, target can be within 30 feet of you rather than 5 feet. Okay, so you give orders. The Scoot. Move up to half your speed as reaction. Does not... When an enemy ends its turn within 5... Oh, that's fun. The Backpedaling Rogue. And then Survivalist. Okay, no. Soul Knife is the Psionicist. I don't think I want to do that. Swashbuckler. This is what Belcoria Ardos is, the NPC. Fancy Footwork. During your turn, if you make a melee attack against a creature, that creature cannot make opportunity attacks against you. Okay. Charisma added to initiative. You don't need advantage on the attack roll to use your sneak attack. If you're within 5 feet of it, no other creatures are within 5 feet of you, and you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. Oh, okay. Rakish Audacity. That's kind of fun. I like the Mastermind. I like the idea that the rogue is like Scathos' second in command. I think that's fun. Master of Tactics. So yeah, Assassin is not conducive to what I want to do, because the Assassin is one hit that's huge and devastating, and then just a regular rogue after that. So I really want the Mastermind. The Druid, I was thinking Circle of the... What is it? Moon? Moon? I don't know why I'm doing that. Circle of... I can't remember what the circle was for the Druid. That's the shape-shifting circle, because that'd be really fun to have an enemy who's changing into enemies, changing into beasts. Enemy who's changing into enemies. God. All right. Circle of Dreams is the healing one. Don't really want that. Circle of Spores. Excuse me. This one can create undead, if I remember right. Circle of the Land is the spellcasting druid. Circle of the Moon is the combat wild shape druid, excuse me. Circle of the Shepherd. Speak, read, and write Sylvan. Beasts can understand you. And then Spirit Totem. And you choose a spirit. That's kind of fun. Be very supporty. And who do we have? We have the Shadow Monk, the Mastermind Rogue. That's supporty. We don't really have a tank, so I think this better be Circle of the Moon. And then our Sorcerer. Wild Magic would be really fun, but I love that more for PCs than I do for enemies. So let's check out the Sorcerer. What are the Sorcerer's subclasses? I honestly don't know the Sorcerer very well. I know Wild Magic, and that's about all I know. Sorceress Origins. When do you get it? Do you get it? You must get it at first level. Yep. We have the Aberrant Mind. Aberrant. Don't want that. Clockwork Soul. Don't want that. Divine Soul. That's the healing. Don't need that. Draconic Bloodline would be really sick. All right. Choose one type of dragon as your ancestor. You gain resistance to the chosen damage type, right? Or no? I'm thinking Dragonborn. Physical traits. First level, your hit point maximum increases by 1 and increases by 1 again anytime you gain a level. Okay. Additionally, parts of your skin are covered with a thin sheen of dragon-like scales. When you aren't wearing armor, 13 plus dex. All right. Shadow Magic. What's this? Eyes of the Dark. You have Dark Vision. You learn Darkness. Cast it by spending 2 sorcery points or a spell slot. And you can see through it if you use your sorcery points. Strength of the Grave. Oh, that's fun. When damage reduces you to 0 hit points, make a Charisma saving throw, DC 5 plus damage taken. Success, drop to 1 hit point instead. Can't use it if you're reduced to 0 by Radiant or a critical hit. After the saving throw succeeds, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. That's fun. Storm Sorcery. Tempestuous Magic. That sounds it's just fun to say. Tempestuous Magic. Or no, Wind Speaker. Speak, read, write Primordial, Aquan, Aran, Ignan, and Terran. Okay. Tempestuous Magic. You can use bonus action to turn on your turn to cause whirling gusts of elemental air to briefly surround you immediately before or after you cast a spell of 1st level or higher. Allows you to fly 10 feet without provoking opportunity attacks. And what's Wild Magic? I love this for player characters, but it seems like it'd be a pain in the butt to run as a DM. I think I'm going to go Draconic Bloodline. I think that'll be really fun to do Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer to match our Wizard. So that means that each of these each of these enemies is going to have a special reaction and a special bonus action only available to these enemies. Well, not necessarily only available, but inspired by their subclass. So the Way of the Shadow Monk. Way of the Kensai is the weapons one. The Way of the Long Death. When you reduce a creature with 0 hit points, gain temporary hit points. Ooh. Way of the Open Hand, Way of the Sun Soul. Now we're definitely doing Way of Shadow. I think. Because if this ends up being like the Assassin, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to do those one big hit enemies and then they're, because that, especially against level 2 PCs, that could kill a PC or at least down them immediately, and then the battle is not going to go great. So, Shadow Arts. Darkness, Dark Vision, Pass Without Trace, Silence, and you get Minor Illusion as a cantrip. That would be really... And the monks get... key equal to their level, right? Yeah. So he'd have 4 key points, so he could cast Darkness and Dark Vision. But he wouldn't be able to see in his Dark Vision. In his darkness, excuse me. So the monk is still going to have martial arts. He's still going to have unarmored defense, or whatever it's called for monks. Let's change back to Scrivener so you guys can see what I'm doing. There we go. I'll get the hang of this eventually. Martial arts, unarmored defense. His special reaction at 6th level, Shadow Monks can teleport from one area of darkness to another. So I think his reaction should be kind of... it needs to be defensive because it's a reaction. But I don't want it to be I take damage, you take damage. I don't want it to be Hellish Rebuke style. I think it needs to be like a temporary blindness. Yeah. After taking melee damage, blind attacker until end of next turn. Yeah, that's fun. That seems like something a Way of the Shadow Monk could do, right? Like, you get hit, and then boom, and now there's like this swirling shadow around the attacker's eyes for a brief period. And so then they know, but it has to be melee damage. So that means that the ranger... See, okay, and now we're getting to the point where like the enemies, you have to attack them, like, it requires your allies in order to overcome them. So that's fun. Let's attach that to a saving throw. What would that be? Blind attacker until end of next turn if fails a Constitution? No, Dexterity. Dexterity saving throw 12. I want the DCs for any saves these enemies incur to be a little bit higher than everything I've been doing beforehand. All the other tests and DCs that I've done in this first adventure have been 5 or 10. 5, especially for that first investigation scene, because I need them to get the stuff. Like, I really want them to get the different clues and all that. 10s for everything else, except for Balcoria Ardas. I think negotiating with her has a DC of 20 to actually get her to join you as an ally. Possible, but very, very hard. So that's his reaction. His bonus action will be to cast Darkness for 2 key points. What was the other one? It was Darkness, Pass Without Trace, Dark Vision, or Silence. I kind of like Silence becoming an eventual reaction for him when he gets powered up, so we're going to keep it like this. The Rogue. So let's go back to Mastermind Rogues. They can help as a bonus action. They can help at a distance. I like that. So the Rogue is going to get Sneak Attack, obviously. Thieves can't. Actually, all these guys should have Thieves can't, because they're all parts of the same criminal organization. But Sneak Attack for sure. I don't know what else the Rogue is going to get for now. What do Rogues get normally? Keep an eye on my time. Oh, Cunning action. That's right. Bonus action to dash, disengage, or hide. So yeah, we'll Cunning action. And then his reaction. I like this idea of this being a woman. This being Scathus's second in command being maybe like his love interest. Reaction will be to... What, wasn't there a rogue that could... Who was the rogue that could bounce away? Was it the Swashbuckler? No, Scout? Yes, move up to half your speed. So, Skirmisher. Move up to half speed without provoking attacks of opportunity when an enemy ends within 5 feet of you. I like that. And then the bonus action... Help at a distance of 30 feet. Druid of the Moon. Gets Wild Shape, gets Combat Wild Shape specifically. I already have some beasts picked out because he can do CR1 or lower. So these are going to be Brown Bear, Giant Hyena, and Giant Spider. Giant Hyena is the tankiest. It has the highest AC and the highest hit points. So that's probably going to be the focus, because this guy is going to be the one who gets up and mixes it up. But let's look at Druids of the Moon again real quick. Because if I want him to be tanky... Combat Wild Shape, Circle Forms, yep. Spend a spell slot to regain 1d8, yep. So I better add that so I don't forget. 1d8 HP for each level of spent spell slot. Combat Wild Shape. His reaction... Doesn't make sense to have parry, but I like him having that. No. Oh, well, what is that? Bonus, that's a bonus action to do that self-heal. So that'll just be his bonus action. Spend a spell slot. I'm going to increase the healing to restore 1d10 HP for each level of spent spell slot. And his reaction, I think he will have like a Hellish Rebuke style thing, where he'll get free melee attack. No, that's too rough. If in wild shape, on damage, deal on damage, force attacker to succeed, DC 12, Dex save, or take 1d6. Slashing damage. They'll be level 2 at this point. I'm not sure. What is Hellish Rebuke? Hellish Rebuke is just like a once per whatever. Like, you can't keep doing it, can you? Let's check. 2d10 fired. Oh, it's a spell. Yeah, it's a spell. So it costs a spell slot. Force attacker to succeed, DC 12 Dex save. Or take. We'll do 1d6. Because you can only do one a round. And then our sorcerer, our draconic sorcerer, gets the draconic resilience, which is increased HP, increased AC, HC. Fire breath would be really cool, but that might be pushing it, right? Like giving the draconic sorcerer a breath weapon. Gain additional hit points. So then let's look at class features for the sorcerer. Because they get sorcery points, and at 4th level she'll have 5. He or she will have 5 sorcery points. Oh, that's right, meta magic. Oh, man, is sorcerer the right one? This seems like a lot. Can she do any of this stuff as a reaction? Quicken spell allows you to do a bonus action instead of a full action. Extended, empowered, distant, careful. None of that's really reactionary. So let's just look at spells. Sorcerer spells. And we want one reaction. Because if we have a caster and we're looking for a special reaction ability for this caster, why not just look at their spells that cast as a reaction? Shield. Perfect. And then bonus action will be quickened. I don't like just doing quickened spell. I like picking 1 or 2 spells. I like picking 1 or 2 spells that this character will always do as a quickened action. Or a quickened spell. Firebolt. Could work. Lightning Lure. That's the one that pulls them, right? Pulls them 10 feet towards you and then deals 1d8 lightning damage. It's kind of fun. Oh, those are cantrips. Let's look at slotted spells, leveled spells. Magic Missile. Ice Knife. That's the one that explodes, right? Yep. That's really good. D10, explode for 2d6. God, that's good. So yeah. Quicken spells will be Magic Missile and Ice Knife. Okay. So there we go. They're not actually statted up yet, but we're running out of time. But now we know what they're going to be able to do. Our monk has a reaction to cause blindness and a bonus action to cast darkness. Our rogue has a reaction to move up to half of their speed without provoking attacks of opportunity, and a bonus action. There's no bullet there. Bonus action to help at a distance of 30 feet. Our ranger has a reaction to deal damage. I'm still not huge on that one, but a reaction to deal damage when they take damage as a in beast form, in wild shape. And then a bonus action to spend a spell slot and regain 1d10 hit points instead of 1d8. And then the sorcerer has a reaction to cast shield and a bonus action to quickened spells, either magic missile or ice knife. So we have our tank, which is the druid. We have our support, which is the rogue, and then we have our damage, which are the monk. Well, the damage is the sorcerer, and then the monk is kind of like crowd control, because he can blind and cast darkness. So, really good start. I like what we did today. We got our unique treasures. We've got our various institutions. I think we'll probably talk about that more on the next episode, the institutions for the PCs. The letters, maybe next time I'll actually have the letters. Oh, I don't have them with me, but I'll also show how I do physical prep for my sessions next time with note cards and how I use those with my DM screen and everything like that. It's pretty straightforward, but it could be something that you haven't thought of yet. I only just thought of it for this campaign, and I'm pretty excited. So anyway, thanks again for joining me. If you're watching this VOD, which you will be, because there's no one in chat right now. But if you're watching this VOD, thank you very much for joining, for checking this out. And I look forward to next week when we continue with this series. And I also, like as always, feel free to swing by my website, nicholaskory.com, and pick up one of my books. I am a self-published author of fantasy, science fiction, and horror. And your support means the world to me. Thank you very much, and I will catch you guys next week. See ya.